what would your moveset be? Not you if you're a Pokemon, you if you're a human. What's your moveset? Obviously, mine would be Tackle, Growl, Bite, and obviously Expanding Force. Today, we're going to see why Movepools are close to everything and why Flareon is a sad creature. Once again, this is a False Swipe Gaming video. You should be subscribed to False Swipe Gaming because every single video they upload on a weekly basis, sometimes twice a week, is very, very good. And look at that intro.
The False Swipe Gaming Laboratory is here to posit another theorem for the theoretical sciences in the competitive Pokemon sphere.
And as we are all scientists, we are going to peer review this, obviously.
One that was also suggested by you, the viewer. We've gone over how stats aren't everything except for speed, which kind of can be everything. However, the only way speed can be of use no matter what is if the Pokemon in question has the move pool to take advantage of it. Nobody—
That's the animation for agility. It just goes...
Who cares if your +6 speed Choice Scarf Magikarp is going first when it's just using Splash, for example. But if it was using some move that currently doesn't exist, which—
like Z-Splash that causes maximum damage to everyone on the field.
Set Stealth Rock and Spikes at the same time, then it would be a big deal. That brings us to the subject of today's video, Movepools, and how, while they aren't everything, they sure come close. It's not—
Wait a minute, hold on a second. Oh wait, the title is close to everything. Damn it. I thought I was going to catch them out there. No, it's close to everything.
Just in relation to speed either. Think of all the super strong or super bulky Pokemon which failed to do anything of note because they—
What is in those eggs in soft-boiled? Have we ever figured that out? It's not just a raw egg. Like, they're not just slamming raw eggs. Surely, they're going to get salmonella. Or maybe they won't. Maybe they have better food standards in the fictional universe that is the Pokemon world.
Don't have decent moves to use once they hit the field. An amazing move pool can easily compensate for a Pokemon lacking in other areas. Conversely, a Pokemon with great attributes but lacking a move pool is often left out to dry. This is what we're covering.
That doesn't make me feel bad about Dusknoir. Though Dusknoir does get decent moves, its speed is a bit lacking. In a Trick Room team, Dusknoir could be good. I just want someone to use Dusknoir in a regionals or an internationals. Oh, that would make me so happy.
Today, and what we will now refer to as the Flareon theorem. With move pool updates over the generations, this can sometimes be generational, so we'll pick from a different host of examples.
Yeah, because Flareon gets what? Flame Charge and Flare Blitz, and yeah, it's pretty good. They got Fire Fang for a while, and that was pretty much the only thing it had access to, the poor little critter. Hey, Scizor. Hey, pre-Platinum Scizor. Oh no, we don't talk about pre-4th gen bug types. We don't look at them. It's not a thing. The bug type was introduced in 4th gen, you see.
It's famously one of the best Pokemon of all time, and has been for quite some time. However, as long as it held this elite status, it has not always been so excellent. In fact, it was thoroughly middling for multiple generations. And
wait, Hidden Power was in Stadium?
A perfect example of the Flareon theorem.
I thought Hidden Power was 3rd gen. Is it 2nd gen?
Scizor was catapulted to greatness in Generation 4, where it received just about everything that we associate with how good it is. Diamond and Pearl gave it U-turn, the Technician ability, reliable recovery in Roost, and physical pursuit. Then Platinum came—
Damn, someone at Game Freak was really feeling bad for Scizor. They looked at this thing and they were like, it's so good. Why is it? Why? Guys, why is this Pokemon so bad? It's so sick. Look at it. It's red metal.
And rocketed it to superstardom with the addition of Bullet Punch, making it by far the #1 most popular Pokemon in the metagame until after both Latias and Salamence had been banned. Which—
wow, that's pretty big. Also, do you think they based Scizor off of Metal Mario?
So far into the generation, it wasn't long before Black and White came around. Platinum giving Scizor superpower was highly significant as well.
And Bug
Heart
Bites?
Gold and Soul Silver even gave Scizor superb Bug Stab, which didn't force it to switch out in the form of Technician boosted Bug Bite. Scizor never stopped.
Also, didn't get slightly nerfed because U-turn was boosted in power to 70, which means it's not Technician boosted, which actually means U-turn is now weaker for Scizor, I'm pretty sure.
Its excellence in Gen 5 and beyond. But then you stop and ask yourself, Scizor's been around since Generation 2, and if it got all these great tools in Gen 4, what was it like before? The answer— not good. Well, it wasn't terrible. It still had good stats, steel typing, and some intriguing moves, but it certainly wasn't commonly used.
Intriguing moves is a fun way to say absolutely god-awful.
Because in practice, it offered very little, and what it did offer was A, incredibly specific, and B, not very useful.
Hey, it offered Hidden Power Bug and Fury Cutter. Let's not forget about Fury Cutter, okay?
Let alone reliable. For all of Gens 2 and 3, and even in Gen 4 before Platinum gave it Bullet Punch, Scizor wallowed in relative obscurity. Of course, players experimented with it, but such tests always resulted in abandonment upon realizing there was a good reason Scizor didn't see use. It just didn't have a good enough move pull. Swords Dance and High Attack, yeah, sure, but it didn't have the stabs to pull it off. It was mostly reliant on the paltry likes of Hidden Power Bug.
Which is weird because Pokemon was originally based off of bugs anyway. The creator of Pokemon looked at all these bugs and collected bugs when he was a child, and he was like, oh, okay, let's make some creatures that you can collect. And that's where it came from. So it's interesting that bug type was so atrociously awful.
Coverage wasn't very strong either. In Gen 2, it was unable to hit steals at all. And Gen 3's Brick wasn't exactly the wall-shattering behemoth Scizor needed to be. It needed more instant power because it was slow and not bulky enough to make up for it, especially since its only healing option came in the form of Gen 3's Morning Sun, which, being affected by weather, made it horrible in the permanent sand-infested
Hold on, why does Scizor get Morning Sun?
Game of Advance.
What's going on?
Always seemed promising. In Gen 3, it
Okay, who's leaving in Scizor versus Blaziken? Come on, who's throwing?
Potentially use a Select Berry reversal set, unaffected by that same sand, unlike other users of the move like Heracross.
Oh, that's why. Oh, I figured it out. Sorry, I have come to the conclusion that everyone else came to about 15 years ago.
And going down to 1 HP would also provide it a swarm boost for HP Bug. But far too many things had to go right for Scizor to pull off this sweep with any...
Also, it's very slow, so even if you get down to this specific area, it doesn't really matter all that much because you're going to be killed anyway. Everything's going to be faster than you. It has 65 speed. Look at him run, though. Oh my goodness.
Semblance of reliability whatsoever. Maybe once in a while to catch someone off guard. Maybe if you could somehow remove all of the flying types and Gengar that completely destroyed it. Scizor's only real niches before Bullet Punch were a different kind of BP, that being Baton Pass, where it could hand off Swords Dance, Agility, or Iron Defense to Pokemon that were more capable.
Oh, it was relegated for the courier of +2 attack.
Using the boost, because Scizor itself certainly wasn't much of a threat even with them, and that really just speaks to the power of Baton Pass. Before Scizor was the Scizor we all know today, it was one of the most frustrating cases of wasted potential thanks to a great attack stat and intriguing typing held back by a complete lack of threatening moves, thereby making it a perfect example of the Flareon theorem.
But now it's been fixed. And you know what? So many Pokemon are good now. They've made so many Pokemon good. They finally did it. They figured out that they need to get Pokemon moves. They came for it. Well done. I'm proud of you. I know you could do it. Just give them moves. It's fine. It won't hurt. I promise. There's enough power creep in these games already. Look at Koraidon. You've seen Koraidon? That's ridiculous. Why did you make that? It's so strong. I do love Koraidon, though. I actually have a Koraidon mouse pad now. Look at that. Boom. I do love him, but goodness gracious me. I can feel the power creep all the way coming from Japan. Bland Pokemon.
The category of bland Pokemon may seem a bit vague, but the basic idea behind this placement is that there are far too many Pokemon that could qualify for the Flareon theorem and tend to share the same...
I'm so sad about Maractus. I really want Maractus to be good. You know what they should? They should give Maractus a Mega Evolution in Zaza version. That would sort it. That would fix everything. You know what? You don't even have to transfer it to the main series of games. I don't care. As long as there is a Mega Maractus that I can use that is good in the Zaza, then I'm going to be very happy.
Fundamental reason for what makes their move pool lacking. So we've decided to group them together. We've considered several bland Pokemon in the Bastiodon theorem, so we won't rehash them too much. But here's the gist. The reason Pokemon like Bastiodon and Dusknoir, i.e. slow bulky walls, are completely terrible, as opposed to other slow bulky walls like Toxapex and Alomomola, which have been elite forever, is their lack of move pool. Of course, there are other differences like their typing and abilities, but Bastiodon and Noir's problem isn't necessarily getting on the field. It's making something happen when they do get on the field.
They do have access to the punches, though. I mean, Dusknoir has Ghost Stab. It doesn't really have strong Ghost Stab in the other generations. I mean, I guess it gets Shadow Sneak at some point. I think in 4th generation, it gets Shadow Sneak, so basically when it was introduced. It gets the punch moves, it gets Will-O-Wisp, it gets Pain Split. I think the thing holding back Dusknoir is the reliable recovery. Like, yeah, you can throw leftovers and Pain Split on it, but it's not that great. And I love Dusknoir. The design is so cool.
Have the insanely spammable, universally crippling knockoff, nor do they fortify their own switching ability with reliable recovery, or support their team through Heal Bell or Wish, or anything of the sort. Their move pools are not necessarily bad, but far too generic and unremarkable for what these Pokemon bring to the table otherwise.
You know, it's just making me think with that Blissey's on the field. It makes me think of that one video where we fused a Blissey with a Dusknoir, gave a Body Slam, Soft Boiled, Will-O-Wisp, and Thunderwave. I'm pretty sure I think it had more stats than Mega Rayquaza. It had like 130 defense, 255 HP, Blissey special defense. It had good attack. It was just the most unkillable Pokemon. I'm saying, who needs a good move pill when you literally cannot die? Look at this. Knock off.
It's gonna be interesting.
Bro, it does absolutely no damage!
Bro, and that was with an
And then
item.
Will-O-Wisp does!
Yo, how?
Oh my god. That was a stab knockoff, full power, into our Dusty, and it did nothing. And we have soft boiled, and we can burn them. Oh, it was disgusting. I think it's probably the worst thing that anyone has ever done.
Otherwise, the issue does not just apply to slow, bulky walls either. Many offensive Pokemon are similarly plagued. Just look at Regieleki, poised to deal utterly obscene amounts of electric damage, but reduced to a more or less wasted team slot because it is unable to damage ground types. Regieleki's move pool itself
No more hidden power.
as rapid spin and dual screens off that ridiculous speed stat has a ton of promise, but it's not a threatening Pokemon, and the support it brings isn't anywhere near essential enough to make it a good one either. Regieleki is an example not just an offensive Pokemon which is left severely wanting for moves to actually make it
Oh my god, Regieleki is Martian Vegeta.
threatening. If it existed in a generation with just hidden power and no other additions to its move pool, it'd likely be one of the most terrifying Pokemon around, but it's
I do love Regieleki though. He's just so chill and so fun.
also an example of a Pokemon of a certain type held back by its inability to damage its resist. It's far from the only electric this applies to. See the sad story of Luxray, but many other types are well known for this issue. Arguably the most significant is water. There are so many water types out there and so many of them so excellent that there is never a shortage of competition. Thus, one can't coast on just
I love Disc. I'm sorry, I forgot this thing existed for a
being
second.
water type. If you're a generic water type without any significant distinguishing traits on top of that, a Pokemon like Luminion or pre-Drizzle Politoed and Pelipper, you will be amongst the most forgettable Pokemon there are. Grasses are similar. Their inherent traits may be good, but the likes of Maractus, Carnivine, and Meganium are never going to be seen over their competition. Of course,
Oh, don't come Maractus, please. I love him.
even more successful Pokemon can also be examples of the Flareon theorem. Take Cresselia, a superb wall which is nevertheless constantly fighting its own pallid move pool. It is nearly impossible to directly threaten the opponent with it unless their team collapses to moves like Thunder Wave and Toxic in general. And Cress is
Yeah, I suppose the issue with this is that Cresselia doesn't really have enough power, even after a few Combines, to break through the big walls on the enemy's team. It can just act as a support Pokemon, but then it's just very passive and easy to take advantage of.
recovery options are nightmarishly unreliable, either stuck with the 8 PP weather-affected Moonlight or Rest, which makes it even more passive than it already is. Cresselia tends to get a pass because its defensive profile is just that good, but make no mistake, in terms of move pool, it is as bland as it gets.
I do remember using Cresselia in a draft league once, which is where you draft Pokemon and you fight other content creators, or I fought other content creators. It's not necessarily for content creators, but you draft all these Pokemon. I remember using a Cresselia. It was a 1 versus 5 situation against my opponent, and I reverse swept them because we just had Calm Minds and we had Moonlight. Reverse sweep. There was nothing he could do about it. So, I have respect for Cresselia because of that.
After so many examples of Pokemon held back by their lack of move pool, let's briefly shift course to illuminate the power of a good move pool. This is best illustrated by Pokemon which are not so impressive in and of themselves, but their move pool really elevates them. Like, yes, Mewtwo and Dialga and such having amazing move pools, but they also have absurd stats, so it's not quite the same. The most obvious example is Smeargle, perfectly illustrating the power of the move pool better than arguably anything else. It's
Apart from Mew. Mew has the ultimate Mew. Mew is the avatar. Has all the 16 elements. Earth, fire, water, steel, grass, fighting, dark, psychic, etc., etc. All of these elements are in Mew's move pool. And it's a little silly.
Its go-to strategies ever since Gen 2 have been those that are the most fundamentally powerful in the game, letting Smeargle pull them off in spite of its awful stats. So Sleep and either entry hazards or baton.
Sub is really cute in this game, by the way.
The latter which Smeargle has been a significant contributor in getting banned. Clefable always seems to pop up in videos like this, but it very much applies. Clefable is of course a confluence of many different attributes, an absurdly good ability, a stat spread which winds up being just good enough, and the amazing typing that is Mono Fairy in Gen 6 and later. But its move pool is very much a part of what makes it so good, since those previous traits all let it get on the field. Once it's on the field, it's using its amazing move pool to make things happen, and it has
It's
no
so
shortage
annoying.
of things to make it happen. As it
I'm sorry, do people like using Clefable? It's such an annoying mon. I can't imagine liking it. Though I am a player that is just hyper offense, like, use the strongest move right now and murder the enemy. We have to kill them. We have to kill them now. They have to be dead. Let's do it. Let's kill them. Let's beat them to death. So when I go up against things like Blissey with a special mon or Clefable just in general, Let's get a little sad, get a little
and
mad.
it's positively overflowing with incredible options. Clefable's support capabilities are the most immediately apparent. Stealth Rock, Knockoff, Encore, Thunderwave, and 2 amazing healing abilities in Soft Boiled and Wish. But it's also so good to deal with so many different Pokemon because it has
Yeah, I'm kind of liking him because just look at the way he's like
all the coverage in
bobbing on the
world.
spot. Look at how he bobs on the spot.
Also one of the best boosting options in Calm Mind. In more extreme examples, consider Mew and Deoxys speed and defense. Mew's base 100 stats across the board are impressive,
There it is.
especially in the first 4 generations, but the reason it finds itself uber in those generations is not because of its stats, it's because its move pool is almost Smeargle-esque. And on a Pokemon that's actually good in its own right, that's terrifying. If Smeargle boosted its stats, the threat came from it passing to something else. Mew could do that as well, but it could also just mess you up with the boost by itself, or it could
That's something that makes Mew special that the other Pixies just don't really have. I do like how the Pixies all have something that makes them special, though, because we've got Manaphy with Tail Glow, we've got Jirachi with Serene Grace at High End Heads, which is just why would you do that? T-Wave as well, Serene Grace High. What's going on, man? That's not very nice, is it? You got Victini with all those special moves that they get from the 5th generation, and then you got the other ones. Got I guess Celebi doesn't really do anything. Yeah, Celebi's kind of washed.
could become an impenetrable wall or pretty much anything it sets its eye on. The specified Deoxys form have great stats for sure, but those stats are in service of their move pools, which pretty much means Stealth Rock and Spikes and Taunt. Yes, they can do other things, but the reason they have been repeatedly banned from OU is because they were too efficient simply at getting hazards and denying setup from the opposition. Even Pokemon that simply attempt to be pale Deoxys imitations, like offensive lead Skarmory, have a niche based entirely on the strength of those moves. Moves so good they're worth sacrificing an entire Pokemon at the beginning of the match for. Finally, funnily enough, Cresselia also
It is funny how the entirety of the Pokemon meta in singles for like 10 years has been, okay, lead, set rocks, set spikes, let Pokemon die. Okay, it's a 5v5 now.
deserves a mention here. It doesn't usually use this move when acting as a wall, thanks to its counterintuitive self-sacrificial nature, though it's not to say it hasn't been used to decent effect, but Cress's access to Lunar Dance has provided it with an incredible, unique niche on hyper offense teams. Lunar Dance differs from Healing Wish in that it also restores the power points of a Pokemon's moves, and this is absolutely enormous in supporting threats like Leaf Storm Superior and especially Substitute Protect Suicune, which tend to run out of PP before they can fully finish a team off. Cresselia
Wait,
brings
really?
it back for another
Sub-Protect Suicune runs out of PP. Why do you want to play with something like that? That feels like it would take 20 minutes just to get riled up.
round of terror against a
Would
weakened
rile me
team,
up, though.
which is as game-breaking as you get when it's often difficult enough for opposing teams to withstand such threats once. And of course, if the situations call for it, Cress can also revive other threats like Volcarona as well. Cress's niche really does revolve around Lunar Dance, which can be seen in the awkward stages when Cress first comes in, but isn't ready to sacrifice itself yet. It can struggle to make things happen despite attempts to do so through tactics like Trick,
Crest just hangs around until it's ready to die. It's like, I'm here. Okay, I guess I'll, T-Wave, T-Wave, boom, Psyshock, yeah. What's my HP stat looking like? Right, not quite. Okay, T-Wave, yeah. Oh, we're down to, all right. Okay, guess I'll die.
Thunder Wave, and Screens. Its niche really is just to sacrifice itself for a teammate, and what a move Lunar Dance is, letting one essentially play with 2 Suicunes or Volcaronas or whatever threat it is, and in doing so creating an entire niche of it on a Pokemon that otherwise struggles to accomplish much.
I wonder what would be the best Pokemon if you could just use multiple of the same one on the same team. In all tiers or in VGC in general, I wonder how many Incineroars people would run. Actually, I don't think Incineroar would be good if you ran multiple of them. But again, I am an idiot too.
Slackoff was
Slax!
introduced in Generation 3 and dished out to Pokemon known for their laziness. At first, it was just the signature move of the Slacking line, but in Generation 4, its distribution rightfully increased to including other such lovers of taking it a little too easy, like the Slowpoke family. Other recipients
Ooh, I do not like how Slowpoke looks in this game.
the Hippowdon and Infernape line. Not immediately obvious choices, but pokes you could see using the move for sure. No new users of Slackoff were added until Generation 8, where Mr. Rhyme of all Pokemon received the move. Another choice which might seem unusual at first, but some good arguments for it could definitely be made, no problem. Then
Mr. Rhyme's not really a defensive Pokemon. Also, I will be honest, I completely forgot that Mr. Rhyme exists. It's not even in Scarlet and Violet, which is really sad because it would be really cool to use these and then we fight battles.
in Generation 9, the Skeledirge line and Bellybolt received the move. Similar
Okay, an alligator getting it. Is it an alligator or a crocodile? Oh no. I'm going to get yelled at if I get this wrong. An alligator using slack off totally makes sense because they just chill. They just chill all day until it's dinner time.
Deal. Where is this going? Well, there's no issue with any of these Pokemon getting slack off in and of themselves. But when these Pokemon receive slack off, yet Snorlax still doesn't have it after all this time, then something is rotten in Dendemil Town. Snorlax
Yeah,
is
that's
far and away
unfortunate.
the most famously lazy Pokemon of all time. It desires quite literally nothing more than to sleep and eat, not even caring if it blocks the road of passing trainers. This is a level.
This is making me wonder how the Snorlax line even continue to exist. How they don't even want to procreate.
Slacker them that makes the main characters from Clerks look like highly motivated go-getters by comparison. The emission of slack off from Snorlax's move pool is not just a design problem. It is one that completely wraps Lax's competitive viability. If Lax had this one addition to its move pool, and let us take this time to remind you that this is a Pokemon that learns Psychic for some reason.
Yeah, why does it learn Psychic? Hey, this guy spends all day on his ass sleeping. He is honing his mental energy because he does not need to hone his body, because his body is already a temple, as we can see. This is peak masculinity, which means he can focus all of his time on the mental capacity, expanding it ever outward.
Amongst the many other bizarre options populating its move pool, if Lax had this one move, which was
Oh yeah, Thunder. That's right. I remember. Again, in a competitive battle, I used Z Thunder Snorlax to kill a Skarmory. You know, there's some really cool things that you can do with Snorlax.
seemingly designed with it in mind, it would be completely different. It's had longevity issues since Sand and Spike's dominated days of Gen 3. When you are the slowest Pokemon around and have nearly no resistances, in addition to staggering vulnerability to passive damage, you need to have a reliable method of healing yourself, not rest, even when you are as bulky as Lax is. Here's just one example.
Rest is just slack off with more steps.
With slack off. Gen 3 Snorlax becomes a superb Zapdos answer, as opposed to being the easiest way to trick yourself into thinking you're not weak to Zapdos right before it bowls you over. Slack off doesn't fundamentally solve every issue Snorlax has, but it does make it a much better Pokemon in every conceivable way. Simply having it in its move pool is better. It doesn't even have to actually include it in its moveset. The opponent having to take into consideration the fact that Snorlax can heal shapes both team building and in-battle decisions. As comically deep as Snorlax's move pool is,
It has Fire Blast. What is going? Also, that I mean, to be fair, that did negative damage. I'm pretty sure that just healed the
most
Copperaja.
of these options don't actually do much of anything.
What is
for it.
this?
Yeah, well,
Why are you
Gen
hydro
8
pumping?
being Snorlax hydro pump. Now that's not totally useless.
Again, it's doing nothing.
Really,
Look at this.
really
This is
needs.
ridiculous. Jesus Christ. That's insane. Flareon! Oh, the poor darling.
And finally, the Pokemon this theorem is named for. Okay, Flareon isn't an amazing Pokemon to begin with. It's
I do love Flareon, though. I wish it was better. It doesn't really get much. It doesn't really have a good shiny. It doesn't have a good move pool. It doesn't have the best stat distribution, although it has very good attack. It has very low speed, so you have to flame charge to be even remotely usable.
lots of lackluster speed, poor physical bulk, and weaknesses to common moves are incredibly easy to exploit without thinking twice about it. However, Flareon's also got some cool stuff going for it. Its defensive profile actually isn't bad. Wish is always a great move, and base 110 special defense can do solid things. Especially defensive fire types have had solid niches across many a metagame. What really stands out about Flareon, though, is that gigantic base 130 attack stat. That's the same as the monstrous Garchomp. This goes with Fire Stab, one of the scariest offensive types in the game. This fire typing also means Flareon is a physical attacker completely
And it's so cute. Oh my god, just look at that thing. That thing is gonna kill you. That thing is gonna eat you. It's gonna eat your bones.
afraid of being burned. In fact, its amazing flash fire ability
God, I thought that was Fluttermane for a second. I had a heart attack. Fluttermane in Battle Revolution.
means it welcomes being hit by a Will-O-Wisp or Lava Plume or whatever other fire move. As in addition to the excellent utility of being completely immune to fire, being hit by those moves actually powers up Flareon's own fire moves even more. Sure, Flareon's not that fast, but most walls are going to be slower, so it can be an excellent lower tier wall breaker. Not much is going to want to switch into that Flare Blitz. Oh right, Flareon, despite being a physically oriented fire type that literally has fire inside of it and has flare in its name, is unable to learn
I forgot it has Flare in its name. Oh, that makes it even worse. The fact that it doesn't get Flare Blitz, though. I wonder what the Japanese name for Flareon is. Japanese Flareon name is Booster. Wait, it's called Booster? Why is it called Booster? So Okay, that is weird. The localizers did Flareon dirty, though. Flareon is such a good name, though.
Move, which involves it cloaking itself in fire and charging at the opponent. That makes total sense. Okay, Flareon actually did finally learn Flare Blitz in Gen 6, but at that point, power creep was too strong for it to really make any use of it. Had it had the moves in Gens 4 and 5 like it should have all along, its competitive career would have been very different, like an NU style Arcanine or Entei, except much, much stronger. With Fire Fang as its best physical fire stab though, Banded Flareon was pretty much the least scary thing in the world. What makes this particularly cruel is that in Platinum, each of the original
The muddy water animation in this game is insane. It comes with so much dirt and grime.
Got a cool new move. Vaporeon got Muddy Water, Jolteon got Discharge, and Flareon got Lava Plume. Yes, they're thematically linked via their 30% secondary effect, but was that really worth depriving Flareon of a move it so desperately needed and should have already had in Diamond and Pearl? And if it
they did it dirty.
Could it really not have been.
And I don't mean the muddy water. Pause for laughter.
Amended in Heart Gold and Soul Silver? Apparently not. Instead, Flareon was mocked with another move that, like Flare Blitz, was outstanding, just not what Flareon needed. This time around, it was Heal Bell. Wish, Lava Plume, Heal Bell. Defensive Flareon is an interesting Pokemon for sure, but it shouldn't have come at the expense of it doing what it was meant to, dishing out Flare Blitzes exactly as strong as Garchomp's Outrage. Funnily enough, the exact same thing applied to Entei before the event towards the tail end of Heart Gold and Soul Silver.
And then it got Sacred Fire, and then it got E-Speed. And even then, like, Entei's moveset is still not great.
It too was a fire type with a high attack stat that lacked any usable physical fire stab and wasn't.
And isn't Entei thematically linked to Flareon by being... Wasn't the theory that Flareon, Jolteon, and Vaporeon died in the Burn Tower and Ho resurrected them and they transformed into the beast? It all comes together in a brand new adventure, guys. It's all linked.
Wasn't very good at all as a result. Of course, it then did go on to get Flare Blitz and carve out an excellent niche for itself. It even got Sacred Fire in the same generation Flareon finally got Flare Blitz, just to rub further burning salt in the already searing wound. Justice for Flareon. And that's it. Obviously, you can have a great move pool and still not succeed, as Snorlax is not exactly lacking in options, yet it still lacks what it really needs. It goes to show just how important move pools are. I
would say move pools are close to everything, Mr. Full Swipe Gaming. And this is a fantastic video. Thank you so much for letting me react to your videos. I think that they're absolutely wonderful. Make sure that you go and subscribe to Full Swipe Gaming. The link is in the description. They also have a Patreon that you can check out as well. And if you want to, you can use code Patterrz at GamerSubs. I mean, that's always available with international shipping, less than $1 per serving with code Patterrz. It's really a good idea. You can always subscribe to this channel as well if you want to see more of me. You can always subscribe here.